Hey guys, how's everybody doing? And here are my thoughts on Fast 5. No Fast and Furious, it's just Fast 5. I kind of want to talk about this movie a little bit. Now the first two movies I had watched and Fast Furious 6 I watched, but I don't remember it much, but I watched it, so now I remember a lot. Basically, 1, 2, and 6 are the only Fast and Furious movies I've watched. The rest of these are going to be first time watches. But for the longest time, when I've heard people talk about Fast and Furious and how everyone was getting excited for Fast 9 and Fast 10, every time I've seen someone rank this franchise, like after Fast 9 came out, I saw a lot of movie reviewers rank these movies. And basically, every single one of them had Fast 5 in their top 3. I've seen basically almost all of them have Fast 5 as their number one. Now, with this year where all these new movies to a big franchise coming out and everyone's saying it's the best since the original, but they didn't really live up to that much in my expectations when I went to watch them, except for one. And I wanted to do the same thing. I wanted to lower my expectations, be like, okay, I don't want to get so excited to watch this movie, be like, okay, let's see if this will be my favorite. I did not want to do that because I felt that once I watched, I was going to be like, this is everyone's favorite, and then it's gonna go like in my bottom list. But I think I could agree. Starting out with my positives on Fast Five is their returning characters. Now, basically, all the characters from Fast One, Fast Two, Tokyo Drift, even they all come together into this one big movie. You get Hans, Roman, you get even characters from Fast and Furious 4. You get Roman, you get Ludacris, you get Han. Did I already say Han? You get Roman, Ludacris, Roman, Gail Godot's character, Vince even, which was kind of nice to see him back. Basically, all the characters that you loved in the other movies. Thankfully, not the main character of Tokyo Drift all come into this big movie. And I was a little bit curious too. I was like, well, these all these actors and characters have been gone for a long time. Why decide to come back now? And they chose a damn good movie to come back. When I saw that Vince was coming back, the asshole that in the first movie that was Mia's boyfriend and then dumped him and went over to Brian, I actually am glad to see him, but something bad does happen to him. I will not spoil that. And it's kind of a bummer that it happens to him. But I am glad to see all these characters come together and be in this big movie, and they all have good chemistry. You can tell all these actors love being with each other, except for two, which I will talk about. I really just loved seeing all these characters that I have fell in love with this entire franchise going forward, and it was really awesome just to see all of these characters just come together just for one big movie, and they continue throughout the rest of the franchise. What could go wrong? Next positive on this movie is the action. Now, we're only 5 films in, but out of the 5, the action in this movie is by far one of the best. The next one after this might overthrown it, but I just got done watching it, so I had to process it. Fast Five's action is just phenomenal. I think the one that stands out the most was kind of like the final act where they're dragging like the big bank of money throughout like the entire town and people chasing them down. That was one of the standouts. There's another action scene that I'm going to talk about, which almost everyone talks about and what this movie's probably most famous for. I think all the action in this movie is great, especially that opening train scene where they're kind of like taking their cars back, and then everything kind of goes wrong. Where Vince kind of like sold them out and all of that. It's just it's just great action. I've seen people say like, "Oh, this is not just the best Fast and Furious movie, but it is also one of the greatest action movies." And I finally see why. I thought the action in this movie was great. It is top tier action out of any movie that's come out in the last 10 years, I think. And that's just coming from me, who's a who's just a teenager and has not been around for since the 90s, but all of the movies that I have watched and all the movies that have come out the entire years that I have been alive that the action in this movie was just great, and I loved it from start to finish. I remember when I saw like the bank scene and then the other scene I'm about to talk about soon. I was just in there like, God, I do not even need to explain the erection I have right now. Moving on. And we cannot leave Dwayne Johnson out of these positives. He is the standout of this movie and has been the standout the entire time he has been in this franchise. For someone who likes watching WWE and is a kind of a big wrestling fan, I watch it with my stepdad. Hi, stepdad. I think the fact that wrestlers have been getting kind of like big acting roles is pretty good. Now, on the other hand, I feel that WWE wrestlers don't really need to be actors, but there are some good ones. Anyways, I think Dwayne Johnson in this movie is great. It's by far his probably most popular character. It's the best that he's ever acted. Looking at you, Scorpion King. I thought Dwayne Johnson in this movie is great. The thing I also wanted to talk about was when I said that all these actors, you could tell that they like each other. Remember I said there's two? Now, this has always been a thing with the Fast and Furious thing, and it's always been a controversial thing with these two, is that Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel in real life do not get along. They basically hate each other. It's the reason The Rock has not been a part of the Fast and Furious series for a while. It's because he can't really get along with Vin Diesel. Him and Vin Diesel have never really gotten along. Now, apparently, when this movie was first coming out, Dwayne Johnson was in fact casted, but he was almost fired because Vin Diesel and him just could not get along. But Vin Diesel talked to Justin Lin because he knew that he was going to be fired. The director of this movie, Justin Lin, he talked him into just keeping Dwayne Johnson. He's like, just because we hate each other does not mean he needs to be fired from this movie because he felt that Dwayne Johnson casted as Hobbs was a great casting choice, and I don't blame him. He was a great casting choice, and I'm glad Dwayne Johnson stayed in this series. Now, since they also didn't get along much, they also had to film scenes like away from each other. They would do kind of like green screen effects where they would film in different areas and try to put the two scenes together to look like they were with each other, which I understand. And now that Dwayne Johnson is in fact apparently coming back for the two other movies after Fast 10. Outer Space, here we come, right? Other than that, Dwayne Johnson is just great in this movie. He does a great job and is by far his best acting and possibly his best role. Now we gotta talk about this action scene, the best action scene in this entire movie, and one of the best action scenes that this entire franchise has praised, and probably the main reason people praise this movie so much, is that fight scene between Dominic and Hobbs. That is a great fight scene where Dominic, he's still kind of like this criminal in a way, and I almost said murderer. He's a criminal. Hobbs is a police officer, like Brian used to be, and Hobbs has been trying to track down Brian for a very long time. Then they finally find him, and they both just go toe to toe, and they just whoop each other's ass. It is a great action scene. When I was watching it, I was like, holy shit, like, they were seriously beating up each other. Now, the fact that Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel seriously don't like each other, when I was watching that fight, it felt personal. Like, it actually felt like those two were fighting in real life, and it was awesome. Like, the way they were throwing punches, going through windows and smashing their heads against the wall and all that. I was like, dude, this feels like that they're actually fighting. This does not feel like stunt work. It feels like these two are going toe to toe and seriously kicking the shit out of each other because they could not stand each other. And I can't help but feel that since those two don't like each other very much, that when it came to that fight scene, they were like, finally, I finally get to punch that motherfucker in the face. I should watch behind the scenes now. Now moving on to my mixed aspects is that this movie doesn't really have any race scenes in it. There are a few here, and it does pay forward after we get to see them. And this movie's more about a heist trying to get money so they can all like split the money and they can all go live separate lives, not having to be criminals and change their names and all that. I like that. I think that's a pretty good story for these characters to just kind of just move on and not have to be these criminals anymore. And I like that. It's kind of a pretty cool character arc. But at the same time, this franchise has always been about cars and racing and betting and all that. That's where this whole entire series started. but I can forgive it for that because the race scenes that we do get are awesome, and I do like the heist scenes. Now, I do wish that we got more race scenes. I'm pretty sure everybody wished that we got more race scenes in this movie. But they repay it in awesome action, and it is fucking worth it. Oh, guys, this is a great movie. This is a great action movie. This is a great Fast and Furious movie. It's just a great movie in general. I thought this movie was awesome, and I think I might rewatch this movie again after I'm done with this series because I thought this movie was fucking awesome. And this is a movie that you definitely need to go out and buy it. You guys think of Fast Five? Is this your favorite Fast and Furious movie? Is it your least favorite? Or is this like in your top three? Let me know what you guys think about this movie in the comments below, and we will talk about it. If you like this video, like it. If you love to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you will get notified for my latest videos. But until my next video, take care.